never seen a smile so big on my little old lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bacon, I make plans for 7:45, and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Well, good evening, folks. How are you this wonderful Monday evening? I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. The weather certainly cooperated. If you got out and enjoyed some fishing, you wet a line, you did your thing, God bless you. Hopefully you caught a whale. Hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you got a story to tell. There's lots going on tonight, folks. We weren't here last week, as you know. We got back from Camp McIntosh, and I quickly had to go into homeowner mode and get some things fixed. But needless to say, all is well. That ends okay. So we're back here again for another Monday, and we do have a lot to talk about. But we do have to get to Big Jim. He has a prior arrangement that he has to get to. So we're not going to take too much time with announcements off the bat. But as soon as we're done with Jim, we will get back to some announcements because we have to recap Camp McIntosh. I have to say a few thank yous to quite a few people. And we have a quiz tonight. And there is a prize. There's a prize for the quiz. I know you guys are probably saying, gee, Scott, we're still waiting for our CFN fish-off stuff. What about the next gen? You know, you're right. You're 100% right. All I need is to run another giveaway. But I think this is a really cool one because it'll certainly engage a lot of interaction. And I'm interested to see what your answers are because I was blown away when I found out the answer. Steve, always a pleasure to see you, my buddy. Tony, it was a wonderful day, and we will certainly get to that. I appreciate you guys like no other, and for all those who took time to say to send me some wishes, I you know what, I'm humbled by it. I really am. It's I know Facebook reminds you to do it, but you don't have to. And as I said, the fact that you do means a lot. Eve, we got a special announcement regarding you. Ed, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you as always. Sparkus is in the house. Curtis Smith, haven't seen you in a bit, bud. But you know what? Thanks so much for joining us. And that is one heck of a fish you got there, dude. So thanks, Curtis, for joining us. Sean Quinn, yeah, baby. You were sorely missed, I'll tell you, up at Camp McIntosh, buddy. Dipshit Outdoors. We needed to write another segment, and we had a lot of opportunities to do so. But we'll leave that up at Camp Back because whatever happens at Camp Back stays at Camp Back. Pete LeDuc's in the house. How you doing, buddy? Still rubbing my arm after, some nice fish. We'll be featuring that, of course, on Wednesday, Pete. That beautiful walleye you caught. And to the Made in Canada Tackle Show, I'm going to assume this is Brad or Steph, not really sure who, but either way, thanks for joining us, Norris family. Always a pleasure to have you. Steven's in the house, right on. Let's get to Jim right off the bat. Joe Vitani's in the house. Nice to see you, Joe. Thanks for joining us. We've got lots to get to, lots to talk about. So let us start with our good buddy, Big Jim, right after his opening intro.
When he was born, he tried to reel in the umbilical cord. Bass named him as their personal best. His power pole came with a stripper. Forward-facing sonar uses him to find fish. Chuck Norris is his co-angler. He is the most interesting fisherman in the world. Stay fishing, my friends.
You can say that again, brother. The most interesting
What's
angler
up?
in the world. How you doing, buddy?
Fresh out of the gym?
Well, Listen, let's first talk about the fact that I do believe you sent me a photo this past weekend where you were on the water.
Yeah, I got out with my buddy Lewis at last. We've been trying to go fishing forever, and they got me in a boat. It was actually, Scotty, I wasn't as good at the front, but getting in and out was no problem.
Oh,
Like, I just put him ahead of me and I just stepped in. Yeah, it was a frustrating day. I'm fishing for like an hour, and we caught a couple of little diggy doos. Lewis got a real nice one on a big topwater, like about a 3.5 pounder, a really, really sweet one. It was cool. And it was all over the place, jumped and tail walked, and I thought it was a smallmouth.
yeah.
And we caught a whole bunch. I don't know, a high point besides catching some big ones eventually was getting, I think I got like 4 or 5 on 6 casts, but those 5 fish would have weighed like 3.5 pounds. They were all little dicky, and they were off a rock point. So when that happened, I said to him, he said to me, does this mean the fish are all on rocks? Because his came off the rocks too. And I thought to myself, I don't know. So, so we fished a bit more rock and got nothing. And we went to the spots that I know that are rock and got nothing. And then I'm looking at it, and I look down at the hummingbird, and the water temperature. I want you all to sit down, put a pillow on the floor in case you fall off the chair and hit your head. The water temperature was 68.7.
Unreal.
But the funny thing about this, Scotty, I had a memory come up from about 4 years ago here the other day, and I'm sitting in a boat, and I did this little thing, and I said, I can't believe how warm it is, and the water temperature was 66. How quick, at 25 degrees, how quick we forget,
So true.
that, the way things are like that. Like, it's always the same thing. When JJ Clark used to do the weather at the Ottawa station, he always used to come on and say, bet you can't remember the last day that that it was minus 32 on December 7th or something. And he'd say, yeah, it was last year. Like things like that. Everybody's going, oh, no, never, But the water was on. So I changed what I did. I went more to my weeds. I went to that big flat that I love. And we caught fish all across it, but they were, like they were 2-pounders. And it's still fun, when you're catching them on a rattle bait and all that. Hey, you got it, Sean. Oh God, don't get me going.
No,
that's it. I'm done.
This is a fishing show. We're not political. Yeah. Hold me back.
I started doing my thing in deep milfoil.
Yeah.
And just found green weed.
Oh, you didn't find fish?
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course you did. Of course you did.
So we had. I got a bunch of these stuff like that. Really, really nice. And that's the thing I've been wanting to fish with for a while, was that Pro Water, what's it called? Punch and Munch.
Oh yeah, you told me about this. Yeah.
It looks like an. Oh, here, I'll show you. It looks like an Ica. Like it's just like a little piece with all a little. It looks like a hula skirt on the end of it.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. There's a lot of things that made like it. I just actually just rods and reels out of the truck. Come out wherever you are.
It's a tough life when you can't find your gear from all the gear. It's a tough. I don't know how he copes. It's a good thing. It's a good thing you have us, Jim, to console him.
There it is, right there, all chewed up. You can see it's a funky little thing.
Oof. Holy smokes, that's a lot of plastic.
That was all chewed. Is it ever cool, when you see it at the head, the way it's all chewed?
Yeah.
It's because the fish's mouth is closed, and when you set the hook, it starts coming out of its mouth. So, and that's one of those BKK hooks. I'll tell you, every fish I caught on that hook so far, when people think about hooks, it's not just the quality of the hook. There's a lot more to it. The placement where all the fish have been caught in, like that middle third and the top of the mouth. Wow. Every fish that I've caught with hooks out the back here, in the boat, whatever, they've all been caught. That just tells me that the hooks are really well designed. They're not just thrown together. It's a cool thing, but I'm the kind of person that, because of how much time I spent fishing milfoil, when I get the first bite, I'll miss the fish to see what the fish does when it eats it.
Mm-hmm.
And hit that and just sat there. Just sat there. He did not move.
Not at all.
Pick up.
Wow.
Now, if he would have moved, I would have thought to myself, there's more there. And as it was, I fished around him. Well, you'll see when you eventually get here to fish the mark on the GPS. Like it went from being a line to a spot about the size of a lima bean to a line when I kept going. It's really, really cool. But I tried just intensely to catch another fish out of that weed bed, and I couldn't. I'm not saying he wasn't the only one there, but the fish were really off in the lake that day, because there was places that I went to that I always get one fish or something. And
Yeah.
There was nothing like, that place I started up just below the lock on the left there?
All the time. Yep.
I've had you up there.
Yep.
Yeah. One fish.
What? Jeez.
One fish, and I made 3 circles.
Jeez, that's
because I kept thinking
what happens to me when I'm
Yeah.
in the back of the boat.
After I made the first circle, I said to Lewis, I said, okay, don't wait. I said, get ready, and we went around again, got nothing. So I went around a third time, and I started throwing a hair jig with a grub on the back.
Wow.
And the first cast I took with the hair jig with the grub on the back, I got a 2.5 pounder, and then I got bit off, and we never got another fish there.
Wow.
But yeah, it was
beautiful weather though this weekend, Jim. Holy smokes.
Yeah, it was like, well, yeah, you can see in the picture, like, what it's like out there.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate that the way you get the glare.
Yeah.
You see it there. It was just beauty.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Well, I can see us doing an edit of that very soon. Don't you worry. Yes, sir.
Don't make me come over then.
Yeah, well, this is just it. And Jim, I do have some great news. No, it looks like the planets are going to be able to align, and I'm hoping to show some. Yeah. Lock the doors, change the locks. So we're going to be getting together real soon, dude. I'm looking forward to it.
So I won't have to break this out then?
If you wish, but remember, I'm old for. Oh, jeez.
I said that to a buddy of mine today. He's like 35.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that he wouldn't fight for all the money in the world, eh? So he sends me a picture, and he's got a shiner, and his eyes are half swollen shut. He had a couple of beers and mouth off to somebody, and apparently, as the story goes, the guy told him 4 or 5 times, "Look, move along, buddy."
Yep.
And he said, "I don't know why I did it. I tried to hit him, and it just didn't work." He said he only hit me once, but that was enough. Yeah.
I'm sure we've all been there. We took a swing at something, but yeah, 100%. Jim, with this time of year, obviously you just mentioned about water temperatures. It was interesting because when we were up at Camp Mac, we noticed that we had water temperatures that were 10 degrees cooler than they were last year. Did it change the production of the fish? I don't think so. I mean, the fish were pretty much where they were supposed to be, or where they usually are up at Camp Mac. But based on what you're telling me, with that high temperature, they might still be in deeper water. Or where do you think they are?
Well, see, out here in the back there really is. There's only that one deep spot at the far end. So there's, this is where the 10-foot drop off becomes the 1-foot drop off.
Yeah.
All relative, all of a sudden because I've done things where I fished that flat, and I've had the GPS on, and you can see where I go up, go over about 50 feet, come down, go over, and I do that. And at the end of the day, you can see by the contour lines where you caught the fish. And there's days where I fished out there and I've caught them all on 6, 7 closer to the shore. And there's other days, like one of the days I had out there with you, where we caught them all out in 10, 11.
Yeah.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
And I think they just sort of slide around the flat, and it's that kind of a thing. But the green weed still becomes a thing. But there's no deep water for them to go to out there. I mean, you go over in Dog Lake, there's splake in there, and there's I don't know how deep the water is. It's mega deep,
Right.
Places over there where I think it's like 300 feet deep.
Wow.
And that's only a couple of lakes away. So it's a different thing. But
Were
yeah, I
you
mean, there's
marking
no
bait fish shallow at all, Jim? Were you marking schools of bait fish in the shallows?
no,
No. Okay.
you don't see that stuff. I saw some things thought were groups of panfish.
Yeah.
Because there'd be a big clump of weed, and off to one side of it, you'd see something. But it's once again, it's hard to tell.
Yeah. No.
Like
100%.
unless you can see them move, and there's so much crap that shows up at this time of the year. Like the weeds, the surface weed I was fishing there, and I was driving me nuts. The number of, like, especially fishing a rattle bait, the number of times I had to shake the weed off it. There's all bits and pieces of weed, and then the wind got up in the afternoon, and a lot of it disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
But by that time, the last pass I did with a square bill, and that's the first time in a long time that I have fished and not caught a fish on a square bill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That would tell me it's not fall.
Yeah, because that's your go-to in the fall.
They wanted jigs. It was not about that covering water yet.
Yeah.
To get them, it was you had to think they were still in a spot, and they're in there eating, and that. Late in the fall, that happens a lot more, but really late in the fall, like when the water temperature is down to 40s,
Mm-hmm.
that's get bunched up again.
Yeah. I will say this, getting away a little bit from the largemouth, the smallmouth fishery that we have, we as anglers should be very appreciative of how, I would say, versatile those fish are when it comes to throwing certain presentations at them and having them bite. As I said, up at Camp Mac, they were using jerk baits. We were using search baits, spinner baits. I had a jig and a plastic paddle tail. Drop shot was hugely productive. But smallies just seem to, I don't know, make us look good.
Well, it's funny you used to say that. I said that to a buddy of mine the other day. I was talking to him, and I said to him, I'm sick of seeing pictures of people holding up 2 4-pound smallmouths. Like it's amazing what it has become. Anybody can go out and catch a bunch of 4-pound smallmouths now.
Yeah,
it's wild. It's just incredible.
No, it's true.
Catch live frogs. Let me tell you, walleyes eat frogs in the fall.
They sure do.
Coming up to that, I've told you before about the Reno River.
One of the first articles I remember reading of yours, Jim, when it came to walleye, was the underuse of the leopard frog. You had mentioned in one of the articles, I forget what magazine it was in, but you talked exactly about that.
Probably Ontario Outdoors, because it's a thing that happens for a short period. But the number of giant walleyes I've caught musky fishing in the shallows early in the morning, or the outside edge of pads close, because at the Reno River, there's a lot of places where the pads are literally 10 feet from the edge of the channel where it drops to 30 feet.
Right.
And in the fall, you get out there early in the morning before there's boat traffic or anything. There are muskies up on the edge of that flat. And the number of places I've gone in there looking for a muskie with a big bucktail spinner or a giant topwater or something, and pulled out a 31 inch walleye, like often, like it was. It's a really cool thing. It's a shock when it happens, eh?
Oh, I can imagine. It would be a shock.
Well, I got 2 on a Stewart once on 2 casts, 11 and 14 pounds. That was right downtown in Ottawa by Billings Bridge.
Incredible.
In the tinner. It
with
was
the 4.5.
What's that?
With the 4.5 horse.
4.5.
4.5, yeah, the 4.5 horse. I thought it was the 9.8, but it was the 4.5. Speaking of muskie, one of the things that a couple anglers that come up to Camp McIntosh for our OFC Nation retreat, they spend an awful lot of time targeting. In fact, they spend their whole time targeting muskie, and it was not as productive for them this year as it was last year. But I will have to say, I think they probably caught or hooked, I might add, as many walleye or as many muskie as they did last year as they did this year. However, the one that they did catch, and I should say hook because they didn't get it in, was huge. And for Ian to say that it was big, because he is a very humble, modest guy, he said, Scotty, it was probably the biggest muskie I've seen. So would have loved to. I would have loved to have seen a picture of it. He too would have as well. But needless to say, those fall muskie or those big muskie have not quite come in to the shallows yet. So for those who love their Georgian Bay muskie, they're still out of ways. But
Yeah, they're not. There's not much going on in the Lawrence either.
no, is that right? Okay.
But
Good
there's
to know.
two guys that have been out there, and it's not happening yet. So
Yeah, no, 100%. What have you got upcoming this week, Jim? I know the magazine's out.
yeah, the magazine's live now. The fall issue. I
Nice.
got that. I'm off tomorrow to Toronto and then up to Shimano. And I got to come home, and then on Wednesday, I have a guy coming to power wash the garage, the
Oh.
outside,
Okay.
because it bugs me because it's got 10 million spider webs on it. So we made a little deal that involves a few items, and he's gonna come over and power wash it. It's what he does for a living. He's gonna do the back deck, the surface of the back deck, and probably the stones out the back door there at the bottom.
Yeah.
So get that done. Make Tammy happy.
There you go. That's the
She
main.
doesn't know it either because she's having such a hard time getting up and downstairs,
Yeah.
but will not listen to me. I'm gonna get her one of those things where they put the rail on the stairs and the little seat there, and it drags you up and down.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna get
Well,
one of those.
that'll be better for both of you. That's a great idea.
Oh, I walk up and down the stairs, no problem.
I'm not
Still.
suggesting you, but for both of you to know that you don't have to worry that she's
Well, I'm scared I find her at the bottom of the stairs, right?
Yes, I know.
Like
I know. Yeah, we don't
She
want
wants
that to happen anymore.
she went for a flip the other night. We were watching a movie, and she turned out the light. I said, "Don't turn." As I said, "Don't turn out the light." She screamed. Down she went. She tripped on some shit on the floor.
Jeez.
But that's what happens when you have grandkids over.
Yes. True.
I got the whole mob of them here Sunday.
Oh, good Lord.
If you happen to make it here this Saturday,
Yeah.
to give me a big hug and about 10 kisses on the cheek before you leave, because you know it's coming.
That's hilarious. This is an interesting comment, George, and I truly appreciate that because
Yep.
there are a lot of people out there that say, "Oh, I wish I had seen that fish that I hooked." It's Jim. You probably have more angler friends than just about any of us. Are there a chosen small group that if they were to tell you, "Listen, the fish I hooked, it was massive. I didn't get a chance to necessarily see it." Put it this way. Are there people that you believe when they tell you that it's big, or do you believe everybody's just shoveling BS?
I'll tell you a classic story. We're fishing
All
a
right.
tournament way back in the beginning out of Kingston. I'm with Glenn Carr. This is when if you brought in 6 smallmouths for 18 pounds, you were a fish god. Okay? We come around the corner, and there's a certain person whom I knew very well, and I got to know very well. They aren't with us anymore. It's sad.
Okay.
But they got cancer, and it got them. But I come around the corner, and I knew of this person, but I hadn't really been in their company much. And I knew they were really good at, they were really good fishing, and they'd won some tournaments in the beginning and stuff. We come around the corner, and he looks at me, and he goes to me, "Oh, you want to hear something good?" I said, "What?" He said, "Watch this. I just lost a 5-pounder." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Just let it happen." Whatever. So we go down into the back of this bay where the weigh-in was, and this guy's fishing a point out at just before you get in.
Yeah.
We pull up on him, and he goes, "Hey, how are you?" I said, and the guy was with Glenn, yells over to him, "Not bad. What's going on?" He says, "Oh, you never believe it. I just lost a 5-pounder." Like and every time I saw him after that, I probably saw him on the water half a dozen times in my life after that. And it was always a 5-pounder. And then I have another guy whose kid always used to say, "Dad, you remember when you lost that 15-pound bass?" And I said, "Well, how do you know it was 15 pounds?" "Oh, well, it was the biggest one we've ever seen." So it immediately went to 15 pounds. So it's there's lots of stuff like that out there. But you know what? People lose big fish.
Yeah. Yep.
It's all there is to it. I remember fished a tournament in Balsam once, not
Mhm.
Balsam, Buckhorn and Pigeon. And I found this little spot, and it was a little cut, and there was, duckweed,
Mhm.
a little, I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, there's not a mark in this. Like nobody has gone in there.
Oh, okay.
And it was on Friday afternoon. And I thought, I'm going to go look in there. So I go in and like it's not on the chart. It doesn't show on the charts that it's dug out. And it goes back probably like it looked like something that they were going to do a housing project and got turned down after they started or something like, one of those things.
Yeah.
And I come off and it's really shallow and I go in with the electric and it's like 3 feet, 4 feet, three. I said, oh, that's lots of water. And all of a sudden it reads, it's 10 feet deep. And it's where they dug a channel to put boat docks for the houses, I guess.
Oh.
So I get out a jig and I throw the jig in a couple of times. I don't go too far along the shore, and you can't see anything underneath the water because of all the duckweed. So I throw in and thunk, I get a hit right away. So I stick the fish in it. It's a 3.5 pound largemouth. So I cross over to the other side, which is only about 30 feet. I throw in there, catch a 2 pounder, go a little bit further. I get a heavy, heavy fish, and I don't set the hook. I play with it. It gets off, and I shook off 3 or 4 more fish, and I just spun the boat around it myself. I'm starting there in the morning, and this was a pro-am where you had a like a non-boater guy.
Yeah.
So we go there in the morning, we catch 2 or 3 real quick. I get one that's like a real nice one, like about 5 1/4. It was a little over 5. And he gets a fish and he's just absolutely going wild. And all of a sudden his line breaks.
Oh.
And it's back in the old monofilament days, whatever. But the line breaks, and I says to him, "How big was it?" And he goes, "I don't know. It had to be like 5 or 6. It was bigger than the one you caught." Immediately, it was bigger than the one I caught. So we fished all day. We had a pretty good day. We're coming back, and we've got like, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to go. And I says to him, "Let's go back in there, do one more pass." I said, "I don't think any new fish would show up in a spot like that in this quick a time, unless we get lucky." But whatever, So I'm just thinking about that fish that he broke off. That could there be another one in there? Or maybe we catch that one because it does happen, eh?
Yep.
Go down one side and coming back up. There's a bend at the place before you go out. I throw in on the bend, and there's still a big mark in the weed where he lost his fish. I throw in there. Funk. I set the hook. I pull it out. It's like 13 inches long, and it's got his lure in its mouth. So I said, "Is this the one that was bigger than mine that you?" And he was red. He was red. He said, "Oh, that's not." I said, "Yes, it is. Look at the lure. I gave it to you. It was a Gambler craw." It was so funny. It was so funny. But we came second. We came second. Yeah. It was so funny. But
well, George sums it up best. He says, "The only thing I've lost more than 5 pounders or 6 pounders." I would have to say,
you too.
Yeah, you too. Exactly. You too. Exactly. Well, Jim, as always,
my trophy.
I want to get you out of here at a good hour. I know you got some things you got to take care of tonight.
Go do a couple of things. Yeah.
No problem, dude. As always, thanks for your time.
Stay safe out there, right? Use your life jackets. It's getting colder, folks.
Amen, brother.
It's going to catch up before you know it.
100%.
Yep.
All righty. We've got a few announcements right after a word from our sponsor. You take care, big fella. Peace.
Oh, there's one right there. That's a good one, too.
Oh, he's still here. Imagine that. Well, technical difficulties. Thanks so much for understanding and being patient. A couple announcements. Well, a couple actually really important announcements. One of which, first and foremost, I can't thank everybody enough for all of the birthday wishes. Again, I know Facebook does this. It reminds you. I get that. But you know what? You take the time. And I wish I was better at it. I really do. It's just we get so busy that sometimes, unfortunately, it misses me, and I'm not able to extend my appreciation, or at least send out some birthday wishes to those who deserve it. And it only comes once a year, so it's nice to be remembered. And I'll guys, it was truly humbling to wake up Saturday. Had a busy on call on Saturday. Steve, thanks so much for putting this together. Next time we all we got to do is we got to edit that video a little bit so I don't look so freaking massive. Holy smokes, it's a wonder that boat's going to move with me in it. But for all those who left a comment, I can't thank you enough. And some of the things that were said in the post, again, I'm almost positive it was you, Steve, that said it. And I will say this, I echo these sentiments immensely. From everyone at CFN, coast to coast, happy birthday to Mr. Scotty Martin. Thanks for your vision, your guidance, and your dedication to make this the greatest fishing community in this beautiful country. We all wish you a day filled with joy and happiness. May the year ahead be one of your very best. Again, that's not just rhetoric. That means a lot. It honestly hits home. So to all those who took the time, I really appreciated it. I saw it on my messenger feed. Again, I got to get better at it myself, but it meant the world. It was a busy weekend. I've had a busy couple of weeks, and it was reminded that the efforts are appreciated, and a lot could be said for that. So again, thanks so much. And I am wearing the Ugly Boys t-shirt in commemoration of a party that I missed on Saturday. As I mentioned, Bruce, we did have a busy Saturday on call. Unfortunately, I really wanted to be there for George, but I'm going to blow you a kiss, Savannah. This is for you. I really wish I could have been there, but I'm glad to hear that there's a little bit of fish left over from the big fry. So I will make a point of getting down there when I can, but thanks so much. Of course, Richard will be pinching me in the back to remind everybody, of course, that we have some swag that is available. The purchases are going very, very well. And I'll tell you, when you receive them and you put these wonderful hoodies on, you'll truly appreciate the quality. So thanks again, Richard, for doing that. I can't thank you enough. But one of the most interesting, and of course, I'd love to share them all, the birthday wishes that came out. I call them the girls under the tent. And if you participate, know anything about the NOWT, you know about Christelle and Chantal. These two are the reason I get up in the morning sometimes. I tell you, they are a hoot to be. It can be embarrassing to be a man sometimes when you're around them because some of the stuff that they say. But anyway, they don't look like this. Okay, so I don't want you single guys that are out there, clogging up their news feeds thinking that they are beautiful women, but they have a filter, and I call it the Kardashian filter. They did their best to try and wish me happy birthday, but I think we just did more laughing than anything. Have a look.
Not only we want to wish you happy birthday, we want to sing it to you. Go, Sean.
So Chantal just said, "Happy birthday, big boy." Now, again, she looks beautiful here. She's a beautiful lady, regardless. But I don't
Happy birthday.
I don't know what this feature is with the lips and everything, but yeah. Oh my Lord.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Hey, boy.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Exactly. 100%. Well, thanks, Christelle. Thanks, Chantal, for that. I really appreciate it. It definitely made it made me bust a gut when I saw it. You two are hilarious. Also, very important, I wanted to make mention of a certain individual that had quite an achievement that I believe he was honored with this past weekend. Eve, congratulations, buddy. This is quite an accomplishment for you to share with us. And I want to share it with CFN because you were so proud of it. And I'll be honest with you, we're very proud of you. So this was posted by the Ottawa Valley South Bassmasters. Another incredible year in the books. Thank you to all that helped out. Congratulations to our Anglers of the Year, 2024 boater AOY Paul Vrooman, I believe is his name, and his co-angler, which was the one and only Yves Bazinet. And Eve, congratulations for this accomplishment. Co-angler of the year. It is truly something special to see someone as passionate as you get the accolades that you deserve. So tip of the hat to you, Eve. Congratulations, buddy, on a great accomplishment. Now, last but not least, because there are so many other things that I'm sure I'm forgetting to announce, but I also will be posting this at the end of our feed because I want to know what everybody's take is on the weight of that fish. We will be posting it periodically throughout the live. It was 20 1/4 inches, as you can see. If you squeeze the tail a little more, it might have been 20 1/2, but let's just say it was 20 1/4. I want to know what the weight is. I'm dying to know what people think this fish weighs. So big shout out to Erica for sharing this picture with us, because I do believe that it is worthy that if the person that gets it right or guesses as close to without going over will receive a specialty pack from Outdoor Flavors, which will include the spices and, of course, all the coatings for your fish fries. So make sure you post it. I'll go through after and all the comments. I'll find out who was the closest to it. We may have to play it again. Who knows? We'll see what the answers are. We'll see how close we get and see how many answers we actually do receive. But on that note, without further ado, I want to bring to your attention what was a wonderful weekend of fishing, food, and fun up at Camp McIntosh. So let me share this video with everybody. Sit back and enjoy. It's about 10 minutes long, but it's worth every second. Enjoy.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to the 3rd annual OFC CFN retreat. First off, we want to thank Camp McIntosh.
So if we could bring Andre and Tracy out here, we want to show our appreciation
Tracy,
on behalf
Andre, come on down. We got
Andre and Tracy. Love to have you out. Of course, they've opened up their doors to allow us to come in here and enjoy a weekend of fun, fishing, and a whole bunch of other things that we probably shouldn't be talking about. But anyway, come on over here. We want to thank you properly on behalf of OFC Nation. Thank you. Right on. To Fran, Ben, thanks so much for all your help as well, keeping us entertained in the fire. Also want to thank Moose for some of the prizes that were put together. Moose, we miss you. I know where you are. You're out in New Brunswick right now, but we're thinking of you because this is what we build and this is what we're all about. Now, we want to get to the other prizes unless there's anybody else you want to thank.
Just want to thank Shimano for donating the mirror bells. Those are some awesome reels.
100%. All right, let's get into. Oh yes, I guess we got to do the.
We got 2 random draws. One courtesy of Brad and Pow Casting, and another mystery pack courtesy of Handlebars Musky Lures. Oh, that was the missing one.
That was the missing one.
Here, you can pick it.
Come on over here. All right, this is the Pow Casting.
Oh, the winner is Howard. That is amazing.
You couldn't have scripted that any better.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Okay, well, now that you can't pick you again, come on up here and pick. This is from Handlebars, brought up by Brad. Want to thank Handlebars Lures for all of their support.
I did ask you for an extra pack.
You did, yeah.
Bernie.
Not Howard.
No, Bernie.
Bernie! Right on. Right
Good
on.
job, Howard.
And this was hard. I'm telling you, this is a typical OFC Nation event when the smallest fish is the most dramatic of all of the categories. But this young lady who asked for it managed to prevail with a 4 3/4 inch perch and rock bass. Pauline Gordon, come on up here.
3-time defending champion.
Next, I will say we'll give away the biggest walleye. There weren't that many caught, but I just want everybody to know that there were some and some notable fish. So in third place with 13 1/4, Erica managed to catch a walleye. In second place at 17 3/4 was Mark. But in first place, overall winner and the biggest walleye, and it was a beautiful walleye caught, our good buddy Art. Bravo. Come on up here, buddy. 21 1/2. Good job, bud.
You give it to Erica. 21 1/2.
Nice job. Well done, buddy. All right. Yes. Up next, we're going to go to the bass category. And other than Ian and Kevin, and you'll understand why later, other than Ian and Kevin, they were the only ones that did not catch a bass. But when you're throwing, as Brad said, plugs that are the size of your foot, I'd like to see the bass you catch with that. But nonetheless, we had some really nice bass caught here this weekend. In fifth place, believe it or not, fifth place, 18 3/4, Brad.
Good job, Brad.
Tied for third place with 19 1/2, Michael Consul and Mark Beeler.
Mine looks bigger when I hold
in
it.
second place at 19 3/4, Howard.
Wow!
But this young lady, she managed to find with all the bass, she managed to find the hole that had the 20-inch plus bass.
4 of them.
Not only did she catch one, but she caught 4 and managed to upgrade from 20 1/4 yesterday to 20 1/2. 20 1/4 Friday to 20 1/2 yesterday. Erica Beeler, come on up here.
Shimano rod, some bait fuel, and a Shimano SLX bait caster.
Good job. And this was a great donation by Shimano, and I know Moose put this together, so a big shout out to Moose. This is the Compre Muskie rod.
Retail value?
It's got to be close to $400, if not more. It is a beautiful rod. Anybody that does target toothy critters, this is the rod that they choose. There's a bunch of others, but this one they truly like. So a big shout out to Shimano. Now, we had some really nice pike caught this weekend. And I will say a notable mention to someone that was in my boat, Ava. She managed to catch a 28-inch pike. Pauline had a 24. Tom had a 24. But in third place, with 33 3/4 inches, our good buddy Ian. In second place, believe it or not, with a pike of 35 inches, Mark. Yeah, buddy. And we've been waiting to find out because I knew they had a big fish. I knew these two because they spend so much time on the water targeting these big fish. I wanted to find out what they finally got. And in first place, second time repeat champion, 42-inch pike goes to Kevin Fernandez.
Thank you, Shimano. Thank you, Cat McIntosh, for a new personal best 42-inch Northern Pike.
Second last award we're going to give out is for anyone that caught 4 species. Put your hand up if you caught 5. Tom caught 5. Well, we got a 4 species prize pack, again, donated by Handlebars Lures. Thanks so much, Brad, for bringing this up. There's way more than $50 value in that box. I can assure you of that. We had 3 people that managed to catch 4 species. Pauline, Tom, and Mark. So we put your clothespins in. Howard, can you do us a favor and come up and pick up who wins? Tom! Yeah, buddy! Come on up here, Tom. Good job, buddy. Quite a feat, quite a feat. Not hard on this body of water to catch 5 species, but apropos that it goes to you because you're the only one that did catch 5 species. Right on. Of all the anglers that attended, who caught 3 species? Yeah, worthy anglers right there. But I will say this, we did have a hard time tallying up all the inches, but I want to make sure that we give due to those who did catch 3 species. The best 3 in 5th place, 38 1/4 was Mark Beeler. Right behind Mark, Erica with 39 1/4. In 2nd place, believe it or not, in 2nd place with 52 inches, Ava Wickens. And in 1st place, proud to say that this man won this because you bring a lot of positivity to our retreat. Mark, come on up here, 68 3/4 inches. The best 3 of the weekend. Good job, buddy. Good job. Any last words you want, Mike?
No, we just want to thank everyone and, start thinking about the dates for next year and book early.
Right on. Get home safe, guys, and we'll see you next year. Right on.
We are truly blessed to have 2 phenomenal venues. One being, of course, Camp McIntosh, the other being Horwood Lake. They open up their doors, which is their homes, to our 2 communities, and we are so thankful that they do so because we have an awful lot of fun. And as you can see, we catch an awful lot of fish. It is truly the highlight of my summer. I'm sure it's the highlight of all of the others who come as well. But needless to say, again, Andre, Tracy, thanks so much for being wonderful hosts. Warren Doris up at Horwoods, likewise. Again, we have places that we can call home. And to a family like CFN, we really appreciate that. So we appreciate you. But needless to say, what an accomplishment to be able to catch 3 species. And the idea of it was the 3 species, you add all of their inches together, whoever had the most took home a Stratic. And again, big shout out to Shimano and Lee for providing that to our community. Again, we sent home, if not all of them, very happy with a wealth of product that was shared and donated by some very generous people. So again, Moose, thanks so much for your help in putting that together, even though you weren't there. And hopefully we're going to be talking to you on Wednesday in regards to what happened at Canada Bass. But needless to say, it was a phenomenal weekend, and truly thankful for all those who showed up and partook with all of the nonsense. And I know I used this a lot when I was up there, with all of the nonsense that's going on in the world, with all the negativity and everything that we're dealing with, seeing, paying witness to. We had 20 people go up there on this particular weekend, and I hope the world was watching, because you showed the world how to act. All the egos, all the personalities, all the negativity, anything that could possibly ruin a situation like that, it never rears its ugly head. And we are so thankful that we're surrounded by good people. Doesn't matter where we are, Horwood or Camp Mac. We always seem to find genuine, awesome people. So a big shout out to everyone who participated. And again, we need to know the weight of this fish. Now, here is the fine print. You can't have gone to the OFC Nation retreat to win this prize. So you can lay a guess, but you can't win if you were at the retreat, because obviously you probably have a pretty good idea of knowing. And as I said, 2nd time champion. Kevin caught this wonderful muskie last year. He caught the pike this year. And of course, what it involves, what is charged, what things cost. This truly was a weekend to remember. And again, thanks to all those who showed up. We missed some of the folks that didn't show up from last year, but of course, those who filled your spots certainly did you proud, and we were honored to have you. In the meantime, I will wish all of you well. Look forward to seeing you. We will be announcing that the upcoming dates very, very soon. But in the meantime, stay tuned. And stay tuned because we got Lawrence Gunther coming up right after a word from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Lawrence G. Gunther. No,
What's the middle name?
I don't know what the middle name is. It just went well.
It went well. Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, dude. Missed you last week. Missed all of you last week. But as I said, unfortunately, there were certain things that took priority. But nonetheless, we're right back at it, hitting the ground running. And if you have missed this podcast or many others that Bluefish Radio have put on, please go to Alexa, go to Siri, go to whoever, ask them, what is the latest on Bluefish Radio? And this man will pop up with a host of characters and guests that you have had over the years. But you are with us tonight, and I know you've got a wealth of information to share. So there is my pitch. You take it from there, my friend.
Well, first, I just want to say, listening to that video of Camp McIntosh, man, there's some nice fish coming out of that lake.
It is, and for those who don't know the area, or maybe those who do, you can appreciate how productive that fishery can be. It's right where the French River flows into Georgian Bay. The boat ride in, literally, Lawrence, as I said, it's breathtaking scenery. And for anglers, you literally just point at all kinds of incredible structure, all kinds of very high potential hookup rate areas. It is an angler's dream to get up there and see the vast amount of water and fishing opportunities. But Georgian Bay is a unique fishery, and we're so glad that we have Camp McIntosh to allow us to enjoy it.
How are the water levels this year? Were they high, low? I mean, I know there's a lot of rocks up there.
There are, and it's interesting because the first trip out, I remember saying to Andre, because you get a lot of these sunken islands, shoals, whatever you want to call them, but they basically are the size of whales. And if waves hit them in such a way, it looks like a blowhole, right? Wow. And I remember, patting him on the shoulder. I said, I don't remember you mentioning in the brochure about a whale, whale watching expedition, but there is a lot of rock up there. Water levels are down, I would say, probably about 18 inches, maybe. Nothing drastic, certainly very similar to what it would be every other year. But yeah, it's where it should be, I guess, is okay. What I should say. But
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. It's just gorgeous territory up there for sure. Behind every rock, there's a fish, right? And good sized ones too. I mean, it's just amazing.
Well, as I said, I truly trust Ian and Kevin. They're certainly not ones to fib, make light of, lie, tell a story. Ian is one of those guys that you could tell he is not only a passionate angler, he is a possessed angler. He loves to fish. I mean, loves to fish. And there are some of us, Lawrence, I'm sure you're the same. I love to fish too, but these guys are at a different level. They're at a whole different level. And when he told me that he hooked what he thinks was the biggest fish, and he saw the head, he saw the fish itself, he said, Scotty, that was probably one of the biggest muskie I've ever seen. Never mind. So I would have loved to have seen what that was, but I won't hazard a guess what the size was. He didn't either. He said, just know this, as many of these as I've caught, this would have been my personal best. Without question. So I can only imagine how big it was.
Wow. And a 42-inch pike, that's not bad. That's not bad. Holy mackerel.
It isn't. And to your point, the only difference that was observed from last year to this year was water temperatures. They were down about 10 degrees from what they were last year. Oh. We caught an awful lot of pike last year. Didn't catch as many this year. And that might have something to do with water temperature. Who knows? But needless to say, the smallmouth bite was what everybody came to enjoy. Lloyd, who's with us tonight, he flew all the way from Saskatchewan. And this is an interesting thing. This is really interesting. I'll share this with you, Lawrence, because you'll appreciate this. At one point, I'm back trolling for Ava and Lloyd, and Lloyd makes a point, and he says, how much he appreciated being there and the whole 9 yards. But he said, Scott, it's actually cheaper for me to come here than it is to book a resort in my own province.
Wow.
I remember turning around and saying, Lloyd, run that by me again. What? So with the plane ticket and everything else that you had to pay to get here, you're telling me that it was cheaper to come here from Saskatchewan to fish Ontario waters than it is to fish your own? Incredible, isn't it?
They've got some very, very, excellent fishing lakes in Saskatchewan, north of Saskatchewan. There's not a ton of them. So maybe that's the thing, right? Maybe they're rare, but they're wonderful. So, demand and supply, right? If there's limited supply and high demand, price goes up, I guess. We're all lucky in Ontario. We got so much option.
Well, we are. And I'll have to say, through the help of our CFN members like Lloyd, like Walter, we're doing a heck of a job selling this province to outside provincial anglers. And Walter has certainly suggested that there might be a contingent of Saskatchewan anglers that visit with us next year at Horwood. And I would hazard to guess it's going to be tough not to bring or not to see Lloyd back next year at Camp McIntosh. But
right on.
I think I just thought I was really taken back by that it would be somehow cheaper to come to another province to fish than it would be to fish your own. So you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Speaking of learning, I know you've got a lot of stuff to share with us so that we can get learned as well.
Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about what I've been up to. The Canadian Water Agency, it's a bill that's about to pass the Parliament.
Yeah.
And it's going to create the Canadian Water Agency. It's fresh water. It's just about water. We've never had such a thing before. And so they were having a couple of days of meetings in Burlington, Ontario, on the shores of Lake Ontario at the Great Lakes Freshwater Research Institute there. It's a giant building with all sorts of big pipes coming in and out of it. It looks pretty impressive, I'm told. It looks like either a nuclear power plant, but it doesn't have the dome top. So you think, what are all these pipes sticking into the lake, sucking water out, and what's it doing with all that water? But it's a wonderful facility. There was over 100 of us that took part in this Canadian Water Agency 2 days of stakeholder consultations to figure out, they're going to collect data on freshwater quality. What should that look like? How should they go about it? And who should have access to it, right? And for what reason? So, I have to admit, I wasn't surprised, having followed the creation of this agency now for the last 5, almost 10 years. It's been a long time in birthing, I'll tell you, holy mackerel. I thought it'd never come, but I never paid too close attention to it because it just talks about water quality. It doesn't talk about fish and fish health and things like that. And, I did try to impress on that when they were creating it and setting the sort of mission statement for it. But, if they open up the fish and, where do you draw the lines? Turtles, frogs, on and on and on, right? Yeah. So they said they did include ecosystems. In the end, they talked about ecosystems as one of their 4 pillars of concern. And I was there saying, look, there's anglers out there who want to know, what's in the water where they like to go fishing, what's in the water. And they should be able to, go onto your website, punch in their coordinates of their favorite water body and pull up data about the quality of the water for their favorite, lake, river, stream, or what have you. Anything freshwater. It's not going to cover saltwater. But I impressed on that at that meeting, and I think it resonated well.
Wow, holy smokes. That's there's a lot to unpack there in terms of a story, but I would imagine there's still more to come, and I look forward to seeing some of the results that come out of this kind of facility.
Well, what we put into it is what we're going to get out of it.
Yeah.
So if we can take part as anglers, and we talked about this before, in community science projects, citizen science,
Yep.
and collect water samples with the right kind of equipment, using the right kind of methodology, and we're working closely with water rangers on developing those methodologies and putting together those test kits. So maybe not every angler is going to have their own test kit, to do that kind of water quality sampling at that level. But a fishing organization, a fishing club, that goes to regular lakes or regular times of the year, maybe CFN could do one at Cap McIntosh and another one at Camp Horwitz every year, take a water sample and bring it back and start to gather that baseline data, right? This is going to become, they say the fish are the canary in the cave, right? So, we have to, if we care about the fish, we got to make sure the water quality is consistent before the fish suffer.
Well, and you pushed that. Bluefish Canada and Bluefish Radio have done a fantastic job making sure to hammer home that point.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, we can talk about fishing and because we love it, but without good quality water, without clean water, our fisheries will be stressed, and we're starting to see signs of that in other places. Thankfully, not so much here in this country, but we are starting to see it abroad. And I think it's best to start now than to wait for later.
I wanted to talk about too, Scotty. You brought something up during our pre-launch meeting tonight, and about the First Nations, Nipissing First Nations, and we've talked about them before. And Chief Scott McLeod, he's the chief there, First Nations and gentleman. He's a biologist. He studied biology at university. He appreciates fish health and how to manage a fish stock. And they just announced that fishing will be closed. Commercial fishing will be closed in a week, and it won't open again until the end of next spring for commercial fishing on the Great Lakes and on Lake Nipissing. And that's the First Nations community that's doing that. So they're monitoring. They're working closely with the Ontario government scientists to monitor walleye stock levels and size and numbers and so forth. And they're not just fishing year round. They know when they reach their numbers that they need to stop fishing. It's not the first time that they put a closure to the fishing on that lake for the kind of fish they're catching. So it's a sign, and we'll see if there's any resistance. I know talking to him before, this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. He announced a closure, and I think it was in August. And at that point there was 13 boats that are licensed to fish commercially for walleye on Lake Nipissing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 2 of the operators said, "Hey, we don't need to listen to you. We're legally allowed to fish commercially. It's our right." And his response was, "Look, if you're part of this community, you have to follow our rules. And our rules and our chief counsel are saying stop fishing. And if you don't want to follow our rules, well, then we'll have no choice but to say, what, bring in the outside enforcement, and you'll have to deal with them, and you'll be charged with poaching by the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources and their enforcement people." So he's not afraid to go toe to toe with some of these people, just to get them lined up, right? You have to sticks and carrots, right? Sticks and carrots.
It's so interesting too, because you had mentioned, and I'm not fully aware of cooperative efforts like this, and this is why I was so adamant. And I want to thank George Morgan for sharing the news article with me. And of course, my immediate reaction after reading the announcement probably was incorrect, and for that I own it and I apologize. But here's the announcement from the First Nations, the Nipissing First Nation Administration. Thursday, October 3rd, Nipissing First Nations Chief and Council have mandated the closure of the commercial fishery for the 2024 season, effective Tuesday, October 15th at 9 a.m. The closure will remain in effect until the end of the spring 2025 moratorium. All commercial gill nets must be lifted by 9 a.m. on Tuesday, October 15th. Members who plan to fish for subsistence must follow our fisheries laws and are asked to notify our fisheries office by calling 705-753-6991. I Miigwech to the registered commercial fishers and community members who respect the will of the community and follow the fisheries law and process. Anyone fishing for subsistence or ceremonial purposes are encouraged to notify the Natural Resources Department prior to fishing. And then, of course, it goes on to say, for more information or to report compliance issues, please contact Jeff McLeod at Natural Resources Manager, 705-753-2050, extension 1325. Now, what I love is the comment that is actually posted right below the announcement. It says, NFN, which is the Nipissing First Nations, is committed to principles of sustainability and the protection of resources while maintaining the practice of our rights in a responsible way.
It's happening, man. It's happening.
For no other reason. Immediately after seeing this, I said to George, is there something I need to be concerned about? Because this isn't something that you typically see. First Nations community pulling back on the need to exercise their rights for the sake of future fisheries. So for that reason right there, I think it's really important that we celebrate what is going on here. The underlying message that this is trying to get out to the masses, they are as responsible for the fishery, the future fishery, as we are. So when you see First Nations take a step in this kind of direction, we as recreational anglers have to step up and do our part as well. So if for nothing else, let this just be something that we can congratulate, we can celebrate, and hopefully we can model as recreational anglers and be just as responsible as our First Nation counterparts up in the Nipissing area. I as I said, truly was blown away when I read that, because I have never heard of this kind of initiative.
It's the kind of thing, news. This is just, news is kind of reassuring, comforting news. Things are going as they should. It doesn't make the news, right? Things like that hardly ever make the news. Then you look at all the news about the lobster fishery, that's commercial fishery out in Atlantic, Canada, in Nova Scotia especially, where they're having really high rates of what the commercial fishery out there calls illegal fishing. Fishing out of season by boats without permits. And they're talking about some inspectors, DFO and enforcement personnel refusing to go out and do enforcement work because even if they're wearing armament, and bulletproof vests, it's no match for some of the automatic rifles some of those people are carrying out there on the water. And they're not willing to put their life on the line, and they're getting death threats at home. You hear about all this stuff, and it's just ratcheted up in a lobster fishery that where things haven't been you don't have this nation to nation thing going on. It's happening with some of the First Nations out there, but not all of them. And so you're not hearing about the ones that have the agreements, the nation to nation fisheries where it's going well. You just hear about the handful where it's not going well.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate because it gives the impression that it's not going well, right? But that's not the case. There's not a ton of First Nations commercial fisheries or, taking place in Canada to begin with. It's First Nations communities just won the right to do this fairly recently. Then they had to get the equipment and learn how to do it, using this equipment. It's coming. And you're going to see more of it. But, I look at Cedar Lake in Manitoba. There's a commercial fishery there for walleye and northern pike, First Nations communities. They ran into some trouble in 1996. The fish population was depleted. They realized they had to get some help. They called in the scientists. They got it sorted out. It's now a marine stewardship certified, MSC, the little blue fish logo in the grocery store on the fish product. They are one of 3 freshwater commercial fisheries in Canada that have marine stewardship certification. There's another one in Manitoba as well, First Nations freshwater fishery that has MSC certification, saying that independent third-party auditors go in there and assess, pass or fail. And they're saying, yeah, it's going well. This is sustainable into the future. It's the only freshwater northern pike commercial fishery in the world. This one on Cedar Lake,
Wow.
and like I said, it's only one of 3 MSC freshwater fisheries in Canada, and that includes all the Great Lake fisheries that aren't First Nations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's progress being made. Look, we all got work to do when it comes to sustainable commercial fisheries, Indigenous, non-Indigenous alike, man. We're all learning. We're all trying to figure this out. And I think we need to celebrate when we see things going well, like this announcement. We're saying, okay, we reached our quota. Let's call it a day for the year. That's it for the year. Let's pull it out. We're finished for this year.
100%.
And it's just some news that should give us all some feeling that things can go well and can be done right.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I emphasize with this news story. We talked about the inshore cod fishery opening up. Right away, both you and I thought, well, this might be a political ploy, right? The same thing with the lobster, increasing the catch. This might be a political ploy.
Oh, and the striped bass. It was the striped bass, right? That they quadrupled the limit this year for striped bass on the Miramichi River. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
This to me, and maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm completely off my rocker, but I don't see this as a politically motivated initiative by any means. This is truly, in my opinion, people that understand their fishery and truly want it managed properly. And George.
You know what this also, and I'm just thinking what you're saying, Harry. And you know what? Why would they print this? Why is this made public? Why is it a news release that goes into the media? Normally this would just be a message sent out to they know who fishes. You could just email them.
Yeah.
But why are they noting the name and the email of the Ministry of Natural Resources and enforcement person? And why are they saying, for enforcement or to report enforcement issues, here's a contact point? This is just for their community. This is for everybody. If you see commercial fishing and you're concerned about it on Lake Nipissing taking place after October 15th, it's up to all of us to report that, right? So that's what this announcement is. It's saying, look, the eyes of the fishing community are on you. They will be on you. Everyone is watching.
I would hazard a guess that if something is done illegally or against the rules, there's going to be consequences to pay, whether it be recreational anglers or, as we've just seen now, our First Nation counterparts. So I think it's awesome. It's a real feel-good story. I was so happy to see George share that and get the premise behind the message. And it's not often that I'm able to share a news item with you, so it was a win-win.
As always, you pull the zingers out, man, and they go, oh boy. But they're always such interesting stories, and it just shows the power of the Canadian Fishing Network, right? Where you got eyes and ears across Canada watching and learning and sharing information about progress and regression, and it's wonderful that this information is being shared so quickly, and we're able to talk about it.
A friggin' man, brother. Amen. As I said, without this, we would never probably taken in a topic like this, or we would never even be discussing it perhaps at all. It might be something that would go through our news feed on social media, but to be able to have the ability to sit down and talk to you, and I'm sure Jay's going to jump in during his segment about it. But at the end of the day, we are getting the like-minded people together. And this has been my vision from day one, that there are enough ethical and worthy anglers out there to build a community. I know it. I can feel it. And as I said, when we are shared stuff like this, it just reminds me of the power of information and the power of a fishing community. So,
and we've got people like, here's George, working with the Ministry of Natural Resources in Ontario, and he's a member of this. He's taking part. He's listening and contributing. So it's not just it's people of all stakeholders. It's not just people who fish. It's regulators. It's researchers. It's scientists. It's organizational, presidents of fishing clubs. They're people that have a bit of decision making power. It's good that we're that we're able to share and talk about this, and people are make comments and straighten out misinformation before it gets out of hand, right? That's so important.
100%. And for no other reason too, it shines a different light on our First Nations, in a way that I think, again, needed its due, and it was worthy of its due to get us to talk about it, because again, it's not something that I'm familiar with. Historically, I don't see a lot of these situations. You have suggested there are quite a few out there, which is great. I'm so glad to hear that, because as you just mentioned, we don't see enough of it. And why isn't this making, streamlined news? Like, why isn't this on the TV or on the ticker on CP24? Because this is huge. This is, you know what? I applaud, tip of the hat to our First Nations up in the Nipissing area, because you guys are doing it right. Good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's good to know that nation to nation, we're all sharing the same fish. We're all sharing the same water now. It belongs to all of us.
Yeah.
And people have different legal rights to these fish. That it's up to the lawyers and the politicians to figure that out. Yeah. But in the end, for all intents and purposes, it belongs to all of us, right?
Amen. All right. I know you've got a few other news articles that you want to share, so I'll let you take it from there, and away we go.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the freshwater recreational fishery in British Columbia. We'd never hear about the freshwater fishery and the value of that fishery in British Columbia. We hear Great Lakes all the time. I'm always talking about Great Lakes, right? Most valuable freshwater fishery in the world, $9.5 billion annual contribution to the GDP, Canada and the US. And, 95% of that is coming from recreational fishers. And then we talk about striped bass and Atlantic salmon all the time out in Atlantic Canada. But we all know about the salmon on the West Coast, when they're caught in the ocean. Mm-hmm. But when they're up in the rivers, and what do they account for? And how does that stack up to other fisheries like trout fisheries and the sturgeon? So I found some statistics that came from 2022. So this is from a period over 2 years. It's put together by a research institute that was hired to do the job. DFO is not doing it anymore. DFO used to publish these types of statistics across Canada every 5 years. The last time it came out was in 2020. Whether they'll do it again, they did 2020, 2015, 2010, and so on. I think they're not going to do it anymore, but I haven't checked that for sure yet. Maybe Jason would know, but anyways, it's interesting to know that trout fishing in British Columbia in the freshwater rivers and lakes there is way more, contributes way more, and is much more popular than fishing salmon in the rivers in British Columbia. I did not know.
Right?
Oh yeah, trout. Starting with steelhead, then lake trout, rainbow trout. Now, starting with rainbow trout, then lake trout, then steelhead, then kokanee, bullhead, bull trout, cutthroat, and the last one on the list would be brook trout. So they've got quite a collection of trout out there. It makes up about 85% of the freshwater fishery value contribution. And I'll give you a guess. How much do you think we're contributing as recreational anglers in British Columbia on just freshwater fishing in British Columbia a year?
And would you be suggesting that that is licenses? Like, are you
licenses and charters, lodges, fishing resorts, buying boats, direct fishing related equipment?
I would probably say 3-4 million.
It ranges between 750 million and 550 million. So that's over the last 20 years. It's been up and down a little bit. Right now, we're about $650 million is what the recreational angling activity contributes to freshwater fishing in British Columbia. That's a sizable chunk of change. I think.
Yes, much?
Yes, 650 million. I'm told it's, I don't even want to guess. The marine fishery out there is quite a bit more but $650 million is a chunk of change, my friend.
Is directly coming in from the freshwater side of things. Holy Hannah. I can't even begin to imagine what the salt. Well, listen, things have changed out there, so I'm not really sure. But in its heyday, when folks were out fishing for salmon on the regular, I'd be interested to know how much they directly contributed to the
10%. 10%. So 10% of salmon fishing activity on the rivers, on freshwater rivers, is they contributing 10% of the total economic contribution. And just for instance, here's some other related data. 3.95 million angling days in 2022. Okay. 3.95 million angler days. And that's, anywhere an angler's day is about 4.5 hours. They're saying if you spend about 4.5 hours on the water, that's a day's fishing, and 3.95 million days of fishing.
Gee.
284,000 active fishers. 284,000. So on average, they're fishing about 18 days a year, each person.
Dear Lord. That's incredible.
Yeah, license sales, 331,000 license sales. So you got your local people, you've got then the next biggest number is other Canadians coming in from other provinces, and then your international fishing community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Those are staggering numbers. I would never in a million years thought it was that high. I would say overall it would be, but not just for freshwater. That's wow. Thanks for sharing that, Lawrence.
Yeah, it's interesting, that this is happening. Like, we have these really, really lucrative, something like 289,000 jobs are related to fishing activity. So people, 289,000 people who have jobs, their jobs are related to freshwater fishing, like serving in restaurants, working in tackle shops, things like that. I'm not talking, just, they met at fishermen and sold them a pack of smokes or something. I'm talking about, an actual job that's relevant to the fishing activity. That's a lot of jobs, 289,000.
It sure as heck is. Holy smokes. Wow. Well, we got time for one more.
Oh, look, buddy, I'm still trying to wade through all the statistics here on the BC fishing thing, but that's where I left off, my friend. That's it for me today.
I can only imagine. Well, listen, you've been busy.
Oh no, here's one more. I'm just looking for this data. Okay, white sturgeon. We all know people love to go and catch sturgeon on the Fraser, right?
Do they ever?
So guess how much that activity takes up in terms of the freshwater fishing activity in British Columbia?
Out of 100%, all the freshwater, I would say, well, if you're asking me, it's probably a small number. Let's say 10%.
1%.
1%.
1% of fishing activity, freshwater fishing activity, is for white sturgeon, but that 1% contributes 5% of the economic contribution of the freshwater fishing community. So it's an expensive sport, put it that way. It's not for everybody.
No,
yeah.
It is a bucket list for a lot of us who have not caught one of those wonderful behemoths, but I'm sure we all have boxes that are looking to get ticked to do exactly that. But yeah, white sturgeon, and what an amazing fishery that Fraser River is when it comes to hosting those fish. My Lord, some of the giants that have been caught out of that river is just remarkable.
And the fact that it's so well known around the world, and yet it only accounts for 1% of the freshwater fishing activity in British Columbia, means it's well managed, right? Hopefully it's not overpressured. It's not overly subscribed to. It's not overly done, right? These are fish pretty much in the rest of Canada and the rest of North America are on some sort of watch list for, endangered or at risk. You can't target them in Ontario, and you can in Quebec. And but that's one of the few provinces where you're legally allowed to, and certainly certain areas of Quebec, I understand. But and only this lower Fraser River in British Columbia where you can target white sturgeon. So it's a lucrative and it's a very well managed fishery, right? Very well managed.
Yeah, 100%.
So
Steve's sharing some information here. On average, Purchases made for freshwater fishing support. So purchases made for freshwater fishing support 2.9, so 2,975,000 jobs.
Yeah.
2,975 jobs per year.
Yeah.
And provide 138 million in household income to families across BC. This as of April 12th, 2024.
We're reading from the same document, my friend Steve. That's it. Like, I looked at that 130, but those are the people, like I said, who have jobs related to the fishing industry. They're bringing home like $130 million in pay into their homes, right? So that's nothing to sneeze at. Those are good jobs. That's good money. That's,
that is really good money.
Yeah,
Holy smoke.
Yeah. So, when we see in Ontario, governments shoulder to shoulder put money into car factories, right, or battery factories, we should be saying, look, there's other more sustainable things we can be doing than building cars and batteries, like fishing, and we should be supporting that more. And it's not some giant company we're handing a check to. That's the problem. That there's no giant company to take the giant check, right? It's all just a whole bunch of hardworking people doing their thing, and entrepreneurial activity like charter fishing, and so.
Amen.
Yeah.
Hardworking indeed, as you are, my friend. Hardworking, right to the bone, and we appreciate all your efforts with what you do with our community, as well as what you do away from our community. We look forward to hearing more about the progress of your research center, and of course, we look forward to the next interesting advocate, angler, character, rock star, whatever it is you find some really interesting people to talk to, and we look forward to it all, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thanks for letting me be on the show. I appreciate it.
It is truly an honor to have you here, dude, and I look forward to it each and every week. But I will bid you farewell, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday.
Cheers.
Right on. We got Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
Jay, how you doing, my friend?
Dude, I'm pre-fishing right now.
What?
Yeah.
How?
Google Earth. I'll put a link in the chat. The Ontario Kayak Bass Trail just released their 2025 tournament dates.
Oh boy.
So it's the talk of the house right now. So there's some good ones. They don't have them on the website yet. They sent an email out. So a lot of the lakes that we like to fish, and I've fished over the years, like Scugog, Tri-Lakes, what else? Georgian Bay, Nipissing, and Bay of Quinte are all on the list. So basically, as soon as I got home from work, someone was asking me what we're doing next summer. I said, I guess we're fishing kayak tournaments some more. So, yeah, George, next thing is scheduled for the May long weekend, 2 days. So,
his comment, I wanted to write after I saw his comment. I listen to CFN each Monday so I can see what the Berkeley's latest knockoff bait is going to be. I wanted to write "ouch" as opposed to "LOL," but
if I'm not getting a hard time from George, I'm not getting time. That's it. He wouldn't tell me the time unless it was hard time.
Jay, we were talking about this on Wednesday. We have a segment that we do. It's the Power Hour, and it's basically we're going to make our rounds and try and talk to all the tournament organizers, tournament directors, those who participate in tournaments, and those who are affiliated with, participate with, volunteer with boat tournaments, boat-led tournaments are seeing a decline in just people participating. The participants are declining. And Harold Gravett, who was our guest last week, he said, Scotty, we're seeing it even on the state side. So it's not just in Canada, but it's happening on our side as well. However, all three of us agreed that the one tournament trail that continues to increase in numbers and continues to grow at an exponential rate is the kayak tournaments. The Kayak Society.
I'll give you an interesting stat. The Ontario Kayak Bassmasters. So, and we should get John Dean on here one night to chat about it. John and some of his buddies, they've been fishing kayak tournaments for over a decade in Ontario. And it started out small for sure, as all things do. And right now, the Ontario Bass Nation has roughly it usually is around 800 members, give or take. Mm-hmm. Over 100 of those now are part of the Ontario Kayak Bassmasters. It's the largest club, 1/8 of approximately. I'm not sure of the exact numbers right now, but I know for the Kayak Bassmasters, it's over 100 members. The Ontario Kayak Bass Trail is averaging over 100 boats per tournament. And if you do the percentages, if you do the math on it, the kayak payouts are way more than the boat payouts for most tournament series. So we're talking $150 entry fee, give or take, might be as high as $200, could be as low as $100. You're looking at, you could win first place is a few grand. So if you do the percentages, it pays pretty well. And if we do a show, we got to get Chris Totosco on there. That guy has taken more money for more kayaking this last couple of years. And that doesn't bother me. He's like the Chris and Corey Johnson of the Ontario Kayak Tournament Series right now, and the Ontario Kayak Bassmasters, and that motivates a lot of us. It doesn't deter me. It motivates me, right? Yeah. How does he do it? And he's not the only one that's regularly doing well, but the kayak tournaments are just taking off, and a lot of it is the lakes, Scotty. We still fish big lakes. But what I love about it is the whole strategy to it. It's a whole different type of fishing. And now we're actually seeing some longtime boat anglers get into kayak tournaments because they see it as an opportunity to compete at a cheaper price point. And I'll be honest, the camaraderie in the kayak side of things is pretty awesome. I'm not saying boat tournaments are not, but I do find the brotherhood of kayak anglers is pretty cool. And especially when, obviously I spent a ton of time with Trevor, Owen Brock. Now Jeff Penner's entered the fold with a kayak. He bought Trevor's old kayak. There's some of these great young anglers that want to get into tournament fishing. And kayak fishing allows them to do that, and in a day where, look at the price of gas, price of vehicles, price of fishing equipment, everything's going up in price. It gives young people an opportunity to get in the game. It gives, never mind young people, it gives anybody a chance to get in the game. Mm-hmm. Now, kayaks, it's like any part of fishing, Scotty, how much money you want to put into it, right? Mm-hmm. So there's kayaks out there, some of the guys I fish again. So I'm still running a pedal drive. I will run one, but I got to put a motor on it because I can go just as fast as a motor, but I don't have the stamina. These guys can just cover more water than me. They're more efficient than I am. And so I've enjoyed the challenge of it, and I will. But, dude, I'm going to be 50 soon, and I need a motor. It's killing me. It's really killing me. There's a reason why I'm getting skinnier by the week, and it's not because of careful dieting. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's a summer kayak fishing. But no, it's definitely an opportunity for a future show to do and talk about because it's
I know you got a busy schedule, but if we can get John Dean together, John Deal, and talk about kayak fishing on our Wednesday show, we could dedicate an entire hour talking about it, because at the end of the day, it is something that we need to embrace. It's something that is embracing us, whether we're fond of it or not. Chris is a perfect example. He used to be a boat angler. He was Moose's partner for a number of years through the CSFL, bought himself a kayak, and he has said to me time and time again, Scotty, you want to win some money? The kayak industry is just blowing up, and there's so many opportunities for people to not only participate, but to win some money. And here's the thing. I would imagine, I'm going to go out on a limb, but anybody that fishes 5 tournaments and places in the top 10 of those 5 tournaments they fish in are probably doing fairly well financially.
Yeah.
Right. If you were to reverse it or like change the scenario and turn that into a boat-led tournament, and I can say this because I have had anglers from the NOWT tell me this, that they have been in the top 10. In fact, they've had like top 3 finishes.
Yeah.
And they're barely breaking even.
Yeah, because you're looking at, the entry fees alone, right? You're looking at $300 give or take for a day, one day. And then and all the other expenses are the same. So like in terms of like your motel, your food, like if you're doing a weekend, 2-day tournaments are expensive. And that's what hits me. It's because of where I live. I'm stuck doing it. I'm stuck staying overnight somewhere. Like I'm not going to drive to Port Perry for the day because we're launching at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Right.
Yeah.
The kayak guys, if first light is at 6 in July, they're launching at 5. It means you got to be at the ramp at 4. It means you're leaving at even a close motel. You're up and gone at 3 o'clock. Like I'd have to leave here at midnight to get up there. And then so travel expenses are, in terms of food and motel, are the same, but your vehicle expenses are less. Quite a few of the guys don't use trailers for their kayaks. They're putting them on top of their vehicle. But even, dude, a small kayak trailer, you're talking under 500 pounds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a price of gas, but then there's no boat gas, right? Price of electronics are the same. Fishing tackle is the same price. So there's some comparables, but you're right. You got to place top 3 in a lot of boat tournaments.
Yeah.
And
that's just to break even.
Just to break even. The kayak tournaments, so they'll oftentimes, if you have 100 kayaks, they'll pay down to 5th. So you'll at least get your money back or pay further. But dude, and we'll get John on here, but what's impressed me even more is the sponsorship prizes for these events. Like they're giving out, Power Pole makes a Power Pole for kayaks, right? They're $1,000. There's usually one given out every time. Garmin fish finders, like $2,000 fish finders. There's raffles. So you pay your $100, $150. You have 100 anglers in the tournament, but I have a 1 in 10 chance of winning prizes that are worth my entry fee and then some, right? Like it's incredible. It's honestly incredible how they do it and the support that they get. So yeah, it's something that definitely should be talked about. And we're not just talking, that's just in Ontario.
Yeah.
In the US, it's exploding even more. There's been a bit of a change. The Hobie BOS trail was really leading the pack. They've kind of dropped in participation because a lot of the BOS anglers, Hobie BOS anglers, they are the diehards. Like these guys are good.
Mm-hmm.
But the numbers in general have dropped off from that trail. And they've gone over to Bassmaster. Bassmaster, under the direction of Steve Owens, has started their own kayak series, and they've taken it by storm. And they're getting, I think some of the numbers I've seen is 150 to 200 boats at some of these events. It is really impressive. And so what we're doing in Ontario is getting popular, but on the US, it's even more so. And that's just the pro level tournaments, which I can enter. They're opens. Anyone can fish them. But then all the states, like I follow an angler in New York, Bailey Biggett, who does the Serious Angler podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And he fishes a lot of those sort of US wide tournaments. But he also fishes a bunch in New York State where he lives near Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And he does really well in those tournaments. And I'm not just talking his places, like he wins money in those events. And it's amazing. It is really in a time, Scotty, you mentioned earlier about, negativity and stuff in the world and things like that. And I find that with the kayak world, it's kind of all rainbows, man. I'm not going to lie. Like it is pretty positive.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I would agree. And Brad and Ava went to that paddle day that Peter Young put on and both of them came away just absolutely amazed at the amount of prizing that was donated by, as you mentioned, a bunch of generous sponsors. And Peter is a hound dog when it comes to getting sponsorship. He has a gift. I will say that I need to learn, but nonetheless, it was truly remarkable to see the amount of prizing that was available at that date. So to your point, it's a small investment in the grand scheme of things to potentially open the door and the floodgates to a whole host of opportunities. But Steve asked a great question. Is it a level playing field? And I understand the premise of his question because we've been talking about forward-facing sonar and what have you. But is it a pretty level playing field?
I'm going to say, so anyone can do good in a one-day tournament, right? But usually the top finishers are always the top finishers. There's always some new guys, new girls coming in, but there's some of these guys are so consistent. I marvel at how they do it, and I feel like I've been fishing bass tournaments for 2 decades, and I feel like I'm brand new again. Like I'm learning this all over.
Yeah.
And I kind of like a lot of this. I kind of sit back and watch right now as I learn. And these anglers are so good. There's such a strategy to it, like boat positioning, understanding the wind, and there's so much to it. And the way these guys can pick apart like boat docks in a kayak, for example, like dock fishing is something I used to be pretty strong at in a boat. Now in a kayak, it's a whole different set of mechanics because of you're in a kayak. It's a little bit different. Yeah. And these guys are still picking apart boat docks like they can in a bass boat, in a kayak. And so watching them do that, hearing how they're doing it, I don't know, it just motivates me to get better at it. And so I'm going to say the playing field, it's similar to a lot of our boat tournaments. Like look at on the boat side, CSFL, the Shootout League, like I'm thinking of like the Crowley brothers. Like they're always in the top 10, top 5, right? Yeah. There's guys on the kayak side that are just as consistent as the Crowley brothers. And I mentioned the Crowleys because they're always doing well in these Ontario level tournaments, right? Mm-hmm. They're always up for team of the year in the Shootout League. There's a few names that flip-flop in there, but the Crowleys are always up there. And I'd say a lot of the kayak anglers, there's probably a dozen anglers that are always consistent in these events. It doesn't matter what lake they go to. That's what blows me away. Like the recent event on Mississippi Lake, a lot of these guys had never been there. And I got my butt handed to me on the first day, to the point where I was so far out of the standings on day 1 that I didn't actually fish my good spots on day 2 because I didn't want to get in someone's way who could make it to go to Texas. Does that make sense, Scotty?
Yeah,
like I was like,
totally.
You know what? I'm just going to go fish for a big fish check for $500. By the way, $500 for big fish each day of that tournament in a kayak tournament. $500, man. So I just put on a frog and a jig and went to work. I didn't catch one big enough, but that's, I'm fishing for big fish. I'm fishing for big fish at that point, right?
Now, I have to say, you're a man after my own heart when it comes to your stature, and I admire the fact that you're able to get in one of these things and you're able to move around and be productive. And let's be honest, you're competitive in every tournament that you fish. Mike, if I was his size, kayak fishing would be something I would absolutely embrace and love. But unfortunately for our some of us heavier people, it looks a lot more awkward, and really, I'll be honest, it looks intimidating. Because the last thing I could think of when you talk about going out on Lake Erie, I just cringe at the thought of that because I'm thinking, holy smokes.
So I'm 280 pounds now. So I've dropped some weight, but I'm still not small. Okay. So I still want to drop some more, and this has nothing to do with kayak fishing, but I'm sure it's going to be an asset. But I think for a lot of guys who are still over that 200-pound mark, which most of my fishing friends, they're well over 200 pounds. A lot of them. Yeah, it's okay. Like we're part of the club. And I sit there, and these kayaks are so stable, Scotty. Like you may not want to stand in one, but I I would be surprised if someone actually flipped a fishing kayak. Like these kayaks now, I won't lie to you. So Doss King, who, Darren Ford has been very, like, he's taken such good care of so many anglers in Ontario, myself and Trevor included. He makes a great product. His original one that I got off and that I bought off in the Sportsman Show a few years ago was a Kratos. And it was a little, like, it was fine for me. It was actually faster than the one I have now with a pedal drive because it was a bit smaller, a bit narrower,
Right.
a little tippier. Okay. Like I've never had any issues with it, but a little tippier.
Yeah.
The one I have now, the Zeus, it's like a battleship, man. Like I stand in it if I want to. I don't like to stand in it. I'm very top heavy. I'm also 6'3". So like, and I'm all torso. Like I'm all my weight, like a lot of my weight is like up high. So when I stand up, that's a lot of this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to stand up to take my rain suit off, stretch my legs. I might relieve myself as well when I stand up, but honestly, I do a lot of sitting. But I've never felt unsafe, especially in the new kayak, the Zeus. Like now, the kayak isn't small. It's 120 pounds. We have 2 of them. We put them on a trailer, sorry. I would not want to put a kayak that heavy on top of a vehicle, like my opinion, especially when you can buy a trailer for if you bought a single kayak trailer, like just for one kayak, like you're talking maybe $1,000 for a small boat trailer, and it'll last you for, like, it'll pay for itself fast because there's no wear and tear on the trailer, man. There's no weight. Just keep the bearings greased up and keep your, like, I go through tires because of all the hauling that we do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Oklahoma, that was a set of tires. That was like those little tires are rated for like what, 10,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
And I got back from Oklahoma after adding another 6,000 on, and I was like, oh, I should replace those tires. But you're not doing a lot of wear and tear on a boat trailer, which is great. So again, it's just something. Yeah, it's a dude. I want to get you in a kayak. I think it'd be great. I think you'd love it.
Oh,
man.
Wonders never cease. I'll tell you that ever happens. I'll tell you. And as I said, it just does not look like it's going to be comfortable. That's all. And I say that it's my own fault. I own it. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Doss King could make a battleship of a kayak. I'm still not 100% sure I'm going to be
now, Scotty. Like I'm sure you like to sit in a recliner, right? You a recliner guy?
Yeah, I've been known to lay back every once in a while.
All right. But you also like to go to, like, you like to sit around a campfire, right?
100%.
Okay. You ever sat in a nice camp chair? Like, it's not you're not going to sit there all your life, but for an evening, you good in a camp chair, like. And I'm not talking like a fold-out chair. Like, I don't sit in those ones with the 4 bars. Like, I'm just going to break that, right? I'm talking like, the nice studio chairs that you fold out and you put down.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I'm sitting in a kayak, man. That's how comfortable they are. And you can get, I don't have it here, but there's a company in the U.S. I found called Kayak Cushion, and you can get these foam pads that sort of zip tie into your kayak.
Yeah.
Like that saves a guy's butt behind too. So now my kayak cushion has some pretty good indents in it. Trevor's is still looking pretty good. Mine's pretty, I might have to double up on it next year, but the chairs on these sit on top kayaks, they're very similar to a nice camp chair. They're very comfortable, dude. Very comfortable.
That's hilarious. And thanks, Steve. Yeah, I would pay money to see it too. Mike, it's not going to happen next weekend. And if I have anything to do with it, it won't be any weekend, but
now, jump to Tony's point, kayak with pontoons. So, yes, Tony. So, Scotty Downriggers makes outriggers for kayaks. They actually have 2 pontoons. And I've thought about getting a set because then so I can stand, but I'm still a little bit like this. So what I worry about is I can flip a jig. But dude, I worry about like jacking like a big largie under a dock, and I do my big swing, and the kayak won't flip. I'm just going to go out the other side, right? I think though that if I got a couple of these outriggers on my kayak, that might help me. So, and Scotty makes a product that you just attach to your kayak, and that's the thing too about kayaks, Scotty. You can attach so many things to a kayak. Like you can DIY it you want. I have my fish finder where I want it. There's just so many ways to set it up. You can really fine tune it. That's what makes it cool too. The DIY part of kayak fishing is almost as much fun as the kayak fishing itself, to be honest.
Well, I will say this: I subscribe and I follow the Small Boat Nation.
Yeah,
and I'm amazed at some of as you said, the transformations that they come up with for some of these kayaks. It truly it looks really cool. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I hate kayak fishing by any means. It's just it doesn't look like my forte. But some of the stuff that they come up with, some of the storage, some of the comforts of home that they're able to include in these kayaks is truly remarkable.
Well, and I think with kayak fishing, like there is a bit of a price point to get in the market, right? So you're looking at, if you're going to drop, let's say you're going to start around $3,000 for a pedal drive kayak. Now there are sales, and so I recommend everyone check out Doss King especially at the trade shows. Darren always has great deals on pedal drives. And that's the best time to get one. If you go on his website, you'll see his MSRP and you're like, oh, that's pretty steep. I don't know. That's not quite what I was thinking. Go to the shows. The Woodstock show, man, he's clearing them out of there. And you could probably negotiate with the guy, honestly, because he doesn't want to take them home.
No.
But go to the fishing show, go to the sportsman show, talk to Darren, order your kayak. You can pick it up in the spring and you'll save a ton of money paying for it at the show. I promise you that. But it's one of those, what's that saying, Scotty? Pay once, cry once. Is that that's the saying?
It's a good saying. Yep.
So a lot of folks might try a sit inside kayak first, and that's really tippy, right? And then they might go to a sit on top, but it's paddle only. And then eventually everyone just goes to a pedal drive. Like eventually it seems like, and now they're throwing motors on them. So it's kind of like, I think I would buy one that can accept a motor, and you may not put a motor on it right away, but eventually you're going to get there, especially if you're going to fish larger lakes, like any of the Kawartha lakes. You just want to get around easier. And it's not about speed. With my pedal drive, this is a running joke I have with Owen at the Mississippi Lake Qualifier. In the morning on day 2, Owen took off, like we left the dock. Owen was ahead of me, and I kept up with him. We went for over 2 kilometers, and it was about 20 minutes, right? And he looks behind him. We're in the dark. Like it's pitch black out. And he stops at his first spot, and I go by him. I'm pedaling. I got a nice pace going, doing about 3.5, 4 kilometers an hour. And he gets to his first spot, and he's got a motor. Owen and his dad rigged up a trolling motor. And so I go past him, and he's like, holy shit, Jay, you're keeping up with me the whole time? I said, yeah, dude. Like he can go a little bit faster, but then your battery life drops, right? We all know trolling motors, right? So you can go an extra mile an hour faster, but you're going to lose about 50% of your battery life if you're out there all day. So, but there's even DIY trolling motor setups. You don't have to buy the $3,000 trolling motor. You can buy, like, between an old Minn Kota and some parts on Amazon, and a battery, talk to Enzo at Lake Simcoe Power Box.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can get a trolling motor set up with all the parts and everything for about $1,000, and including like a 50 or 100 amp hour battery. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Question while we're on the topic, because it's something that I see when I'm out in the water and have been seeing for a number of years. Joe mentions I've seen a big number of increase of kayaks fishing on the French River. It's great to see, and I always slow down to no wake, just like canoes. Great respect. Here's my question. As a kayaker, do you prefer someone pulling down off throttle and just, coasting along past you? Or do you have an issue with people that are on plane going by you at 30, 40 miles an hour?
It honestly depends on the boat, because different boats throw different wakes. I respect them when they slow down. So what I do in my kayak, Scotty, is, so this happens a lot down where we are because it's a very popular boating area in Inner Bay of Long Point. There's a lot of sand, a lot of boats anchored, and they're swimming. Like they're out with their lawn chairs, grandkids and grandparents out on the pontoon boat. And there's just boats everywhere. So we come out of the marsh where we're fishing, and you got to run the gauntlet of all the Saturday afternooners that are all out there probably drinking in the boat, but that's another discussion. Anyway, so we'll try to run a line between all the boats. And there's always that one boat, and not even affects the kayaks, but you should not be going that fast around these anchored boats either, right? Because when you're anchored, you should be avoiding those areas too.
100%.
And the boats that actually drive me the most crazy is like the larger fiberglass boats, because I don't care whether they're doing 40 miles an hour or 4 miles an hour, they're pushing a wake the whole time. So what I do is I have a pedal drive, and I have a Yak Attack rod mount on my side that holds my paddle. And so all I do is if I'm approaching a boat wake, I'll just stop pedaling for a second, grab my paddle, and I'll just turn into the boat wake, so that I just kind of coast into it, and then I just keep going. Like wake boats are a wake boat under, like, you know, and there's a dude jumping the wake behind it. We were up on Stony last year, so 2023. Nightmare, man. Nightmare. Like, you got to be prepared for that. But I do find that most people slow down. I had one lady in I've been kayak fishing now for 3 years. One lady last summer did not slow down. And because she was in a shallow area, she got up on pad with her kids and from her swimming hole, and she's like, I'm not slowing down for anybody. And she just ran through the boats. She probably had like a 16 horse with like it was just a aluminum boat, 16 foot with like probably 40 on the back. And she ran right between Trevor and I. And dude, I don't usually lose my cool. That was angry me came out. And angry me doesn't show up that often anymore. As I get older, angry me kind of just stays back. But I was mad that day. But I'm going to say 95% of our boaters are very respectful. They should slow down. You're a non-motorized vessel. You should slow down. They're supposed to slow down, but they usually do. But yes, and then I also avoid areas like Stony's a good example. So I don't usually fish the Kawarthas a whole lot, but we all know those narrow channels on Stony where the boats go through, and they have no choice. That's the Trent Severn waterway.
Yeah.
Definitely avoid those. If you're new to kayak fishing, I know there's some good smallmouth in those deeper water areas near that channel. You are going to get beat up. Trevor fished a ton of smallmouth water near the Trent Severn waterway during that tournament. And as a dad, and I know his mother was not happy about it, but he was fine. And I've really taught him well, or tried to, but that's something to be aware of. But at the same time, you don't have to fish those areas. Like, you can get into places that boats can't. Literally, boats can't go. I can go on a kayak. Yep. You have to work hard. Like, sometimes you have to paddle pretty hard. Like, you know, you got to learn paddling techniques, Scotty. So you got to get the core working, get the core working. My Fitbit sometimes thinks that it's like, way to go. You just swam for 40 minutes. I'm like, I wasn't swimming, you jackass. I was paddling a kayak, but it thinks I'm swimming as I'm going down the lake.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, with kayak angling, a video that you sent me, which I think is very interesting and intriguing. It was published by Target Walleye, but it has an interesting spin on the catch, photo, release type tournaments that kayak tournaments are known for. So have a look.
Photo release walleye derbies are all the rage right now. It's where folks take a picture of their fish on a bump board, measuring the length, release that fish, and then use a conversion chart to convert that length into a weight. Everybody has the same chart, so it's usually fair sometimes. But imagine catching a unique critter like this one that David Keller shared on Facebook while fishing a length-based walleye tournament. I wonder how many spots that would bump you up in the standings, especially if it wasn't the only one to make the card. Usually those conversion charts are pretty inflated, saying that walleyes weigh significantly more than they actually would if you brought them into the scales. Unless you were to catch a fish like this fat 22.5-incher that Jason Shakurit caught the day before the Green Bay NWT. 22.5 inches and weighed 6 pounds, 12 ounces. That baby's thick.
Amen. Is it ever thick? Holy crap.
Yep.
Well, yeah, a lot could be said about these catch photo release tournaments. I know Steve had asked, is it better for the fishery when it comes to these kayak tournaments? Yeah, I would agree. There definitely is.
I think so. Like I think the catch photo release format is, and actually, so let's talk about that for a second. The part of the skill of kayak fishing is you're in this little space, like you're in about 30 to 36 inches of space. That's how wide these fishing kayaks are. And you got to bring in this fish. And if anyone's tried to handle a smallmouth, right? And they're usually just full of energy, even after you fought them out. You bring them in the kayak. I have to get my measuring board out. I got to get my camera out, my phone, and I have everything tethered to the kayak because I do drop things. And I got to take pictures of it, and I have to have in my hand a certain way, so it can't be. So you get deducted points, Scotty. If you have your hand under the gill plate, you get deducted points. So you'll lose. I think it's an inch penalty if you have it under the gill plate or half an inch. You can't have your finger like in the eye. It's like, not just are we talking catch photo release, like you have to handle the fish properly. And I get stabbed a lot, dude. Like after a weekend of kayak fishing tournaments, like I have dorsal spines, all like little pricks all through my hand. But I'll tell you, like, we are releasing those fish alive every time, right? Like I love, Trevor does a good job of it, like all those release shots that he does, like, and a lot of them I've filmed, but I love those release shots, like beside the kayak, like you're just taking that photo of that big 20-inch largemouth swimming away. I think that is just a cool thing. So these fish are well taken care of. And I think that with walleye tournaments, the catch photo release format, whether it's in a boat too, and I've seen some boat clubs take on these catch weigh release or catch photo release tournaments to avoid having to haul fish around a live well. And it happens in some states, they promote it because of hot weather in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to maintain fish or take care of fish in the live well. And I think with walleye tournaments, you know this yourself, Scotty, walleyes don't keep well in a live well very well. Like they get stressed really easy. And, and there's even some states where a lot of viewers may not know this. Some walleye tournaments are catch and kill. And if the limit is 5 walleye for the day, if you bring that fish into the boat, you have to keep it. Like you have to let it go at boat side. And that's the gamble. Like if you catch your 4 and you don't have your 5th one, and you're like, I don't know if that 5th one, that one's coming up here, my bottom bounce, it looks pretty small. I'm going to let it go because I'm going to catch a bigger one. And you might not catch a bigger one. You might catch only 4 fish that day.
Yeah.
And it's and state agencies have put that in place to protect the walleye because they don't travel well in a live well, basically,
100%.
right? Yeah. 100%. So I see the value. I do see the point though that it's length versus weight. And you have that contest tonight about how big that fish is.
Yeah.
And I think that, we're talking, so you could have a fish, you could have a bass 20 inches long, and it can vary by a pound in weight, right? Like you could have 2 20-inch bass, 2 20-inch smallmouth, and one could be 4 pounds, one could be 5 pounds on 100%. The same day at the same spot. It 100%. Happens. So there's pros and cons to weight tournaments and length tournaments. I see the value in that. I do agree though that I don't think using a chart conversion for weights, I don't like that. I think it should just be, if you're going to do length, down to the 1/4 inch is usually kind of the standard. If you get a second though, show the picture I'm sharing if you can. There's a cool story with this fish. So this is from Jay Pierce. Jay Pierce does the catfish extravaganza in the spring. He's one of the judges. And Jay sent me this picture. This is a channel cat. Now this channel cat is, I believe that's 32 inches. That lower tail is at the 32-inch mark.
Jeez.
But look at that top piece. That's connected to the tail. That's part of the tail. That's like it's almost like those goldfish with the fancy tails.
Yep. Yep.
Just like that walleye in that video.
Yep.
And so the catfish extravaganza that goes on in the spring in Ontario, Southern Ontario, it's a length tournament. And some of these catfish, like a 32-inch catfish could be 12 pounds or 17 pounds. Like there's a huge variation in channel cats. But this fish was like a freak of nature. That adds an extra almost 2 inches to that fish. Like that's a record-breaking fish by length. And that's not like he sent me this picture. I wasn't a judge, but much like with the CFN fish off, like sometimes the judges will consult with me kind of as a I feel like I'm the ombudsman of tournament of like catch photo release tournaments. And I was like, dude, that is legal to me. That's a legal fish. And I would not change what that is. Somebody caught a catfish with a long tail and they shouldn't be penalized. That's like saying I caught a walleye that was twice as fat as the rest. And so like that's legal, right? So I think that walleye with that longer tail, I know that's a bit of luck, but that's also legitimate. That's what it is. This is, dude, tournaments are gambling. We're gambling. Yep. Someone got lucky. Someone drew an ace. That's what happened there, right?
Amen. So, yeah. Good for you, Jay. Hopefully you won a pile of money because of that fish.
No, it wasn't me.
Oh, did Jay Pierce win a ton of money?
No, he was one of the judges. That was
he's one of the judges. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So he was one of the judges, and he sent it to me to get my feedback. He's like, dude, look at this fish. And I felt bad because, like, I think you can imagine the other anglers, not all of them, but there's, you know how vocal anglers get, right?
Oh, yes.
Competitive. And as soon as I saw that fish, I'm like, this is going to be one shitstorm fish for you, Jay Pierce.
I was just going to say, you got a bucket of popcorn. Oh, I can't wait to see
that. But, the judges ruling is final, and I think it was the right call to keep that fish as is, and that it had a longer tail.
Yep.
So,
amen.
I see Joe's got a question. What are they like in current coming back in the opposite way? Okay, so Joe, back to kayaks briefly. So honestly, the big fishing kayaks, you don't even notice it. If anything, I'm just going faster. I notice, like, if I'm going with the wind or with the current, I'm going faster. If I'm going against, I'm going against, but there's no issues with boat control or anything else. Now, I have not taken the kayak in really fast current. I've done some river fishing with it, but kind of like, I wouldn't take my kayak like on the Grand, but like on some of the creeks coming into Lake Erie, there's a bit of current. You got to be tricky to navigate it. A tip for everyone is in current, you got to really plan your approach. And if you have your rods up in the air with overhanging trees and you're moving faster than you think you are, that's always an issue. Yeah. But no, they handle very well in current, in waves. And you just have to know your limitations. Know your limitations for sure.
Amen. And that's where I step in and say, yep, there's the line I'm not crossing. But yeah, one of these days, perhaps,
so
with Jim, I get out to a spot, I'm able to lose a few pounds. There might be a kayak with my name.
You don't need to lose any pounds, buddy. That picture, that doesn't need, dude. Sometimes people take pictures of me and I'm like, am I really that big? And then sometimes I'm like, whoever took certain pictures, I'm like, I want that angle every time.
Yeah, no, but that's the unfortunate thing is, Jay, with the answer in all those occasions are yes, you are, Scott.
Hey, check out George's comment, and this is something important for you, Scotty, when you look at CFN. If you get these long-tailed fish, that's how the regulations are defined. That's a great point, George. Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Very, very good advice. Yeah.
Yep, true enough. Well, Jay, as I said, you are our anchor leg as always. Unless you have more to share, I've kept you long enough tonight, and
I'm good, man. I'm all good for tonight. I'm got tomorrow off. I'm going to the Norfolk County Fair. Tomorrow's opening day. Nice. It's Young Canada Day, so all the high schools get together at the grandstand. They decorate each section for all the 5 schools. There's a tug of war. There's a marathon race. There's cheerleading contests. It's all school spirit. I did it, dude. I did it when I was like in high school, and so my kids are doing it. This year's the Trevor and Steph are at the same school. Like Trevor's a senior and Steph's a grade 9, and Steph's on the cheerleading team. So she's out with the cheerleading girls tonight, decorating, and she's going to be cheering tomorrow. But before I leave, Scotty, I promised Stephanie that I would say happy birthday to you, because yesterday she has a Facebook account now because she has to be on this cheer team, and she saw Steve's mock-up of you for the CFN, and she was upstairs and she yells, "Dad, it's Scotty's birthday!" So happy birthday to you, Scotty, from all of us here in Delhi, and thanks for all you do, buddy. Really appreciate you.
It goes both ways, Jay. And as I said, I am reminded all the time, and whether it's my birthday, whether it's Made in Canada Tackle Show, CFN Live, or just people I meet randomly, I'm reminded how powerful this community is. And I'm just as honored to be a part of it as everybody else is. But it's a great feeling every once in a while to get a pat on the back. I don't care who you are. It feels good.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Right on, dude. You take care. Have yourself a great week, bud. We'll see you next Monday.
See you next week.
Yes, sir. All right, yet another great show. Thanks so much for all of you for sticking around and joining us. To Jim, Lawrence, and Jay, I couldn't do this without you, as well as my good buddy Steve Shaw behind the scenes, constantly promoting our community. And as much as I might be the glue, Steve is the tape. So anyway, regardless, there is a lot of moving parts, and we are really appreciative of all of you who support us, because we are trying to bring a cohesive message that is positive and certainly ethical towards fishing. And we want more access to fishing. We certainly don't want to take it away, but a great show, great resources. Thanks so much, George, and everybody else that shares content with me to keep us enlightened to what's going on in the fishing community, especially when we're busy at our retreats or various other events. It's always nice to have that pipeline of news that's going on that perhaps we don't see through social media. So it's all really important. Again, it has so many moving parts, and I certainly couldn't do this with all of you. So again, thanks so much for the birthday wishes. It really meant the world to get that. That kind of support and love is it's mirrored. It goes both ways. I am just a resemblance of you guys, maybe a little heavier, but a resemblance nonetheless of you guys, and I really appreciate you. So thanks for sticking out. And of course, we will post the picture of the bass that was caught at Camp McIntosh, and we'd love to hear what your guess is on the weight. We'll be announcing it next week on CFN Live. Until then, you guys have yourself a great week. Enjoy whatever great weather that you can. Get out fishing, man. Just get out. Never mind all the nonsense, all the debates and rhetoric and whatever. Yes, it's going on in the world. Yes, we should know what is happening. But at the end of the day, you can get so caught up in it. And do yourself a favor. Just ignore it for a day. Get out and enjoy a day of fishing. Trust me. You'll thank me. Have yourself a great week. Love y'all. Take care. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end.